back here on the platform this evening, and we continue our discussion with Mr. Peter Nygard, who is known around the world and has been working in the Bahamas, for the last 30-odd years.
Over 30 years,
Yes.
A proud Bahamian, by the way.
Absolutely, absolutely. Peter Nygard, the fight over Clifton, and after you would have gotten your access to your property, Louis Bacon got an award in the United States for, apparently, he said, for some work that he had done at Clifton. Speak to that.
Yes, a very strange and other fabricated award, in my opinion. I got to commend Code Smith to taking up that cause from get-go. You know, Code, and I see all the history books behind there, was one of the guys out there with his flag and speaking to the issues and leading the parade in terms of really getting that slave site and that preventing the whole development of another life at Key there in the first place, and proudly so. And actually how I met Code in the first place. He had been a really courageous warrior leading that. When Bacon stood up and went in front of Audubon Society and claimed that he single-handedly had led the parade to get this historic site for the Bahamian people, it just infuriated many people, not only Code, but I know a lot of people. I was sort of sitting on that sidelines there, not really understanding the whole series of what had gone on before. And then when I really studied it further and looked at his tapes, I realized what kind of horrible lying this man had done for that glorification for his own reputation. He was trying to cleanse his own reputation, to set up this whole scenario as if he was a big environmentalist who now is going to protect the environment for Clifton and now Nygard Key. So he's trying to wrap it into Nygard Key. But really the sad part of it was, I noticed, that he had taken and control behind the scenes and had been really supporting Code, apparently, behind the scenes quietly, and not at all led it. Now, for him to come up and say, I led it, and took that whole thing away from a lot of the other people was really very, very distasteful. But you know what else he really did that really bothered me, for one? He claimed in there that he got it back and saved that Jaws beach for the 1,000 to 10,000 Bahamians who used that beach. You know, Kennedy himself made those statements in there, as if he got it for the Bahamian people. And then when I looked at it after, and I used to see Bahamian people over there, and then when I looked at after he supposedly saved it for Bahamian people, nobody at all there, and not a soul. He in fact cut the Bahamian people out of it. And that really upset me because, you know, my battle for the Bahamian people is well known, you know, and so I went to town on that. And you know what else he did? He destroyed the dock that a lot of Bahamian people used.
What do you mean he destroyed it?
There was a dock there that Bahamian people launched their boats to go fishing for their food, the local people, you know, and that ended. There was a lot of fish all around there that people used to go fishing. You know, we fish for a living here and for our livelihood. Dock was destroyed. Gates were up. Signs were up, do not trespass. Beach was all garbage, you know, and garbage with prickly citronella trees.
I know your people came in and cleaned it up.
All my models came and cleaned it up for 3 days, the whole thing to make it livable. And then when Code tried to replace that beach on his own, that dock, Bacon took an injunction against him and against the government for daring to replace that dock that they destroyed. He wasn't even building a new dock. He was just replacing the one that they claimed was destroyed by the hurricane.
So Bacon supporters then took this action against Code Smith.
Very much so.
Against Fred Smith, eh?
Fred Smith very much attacked him, you know, and really attacked Code Smith for daring to interfere, you know, and he wasn't interfering. He was really protecting his own cause from get-go. You know, he was the original author who was really getting that place for the Bahamian people. And now he was trying to restore it back to them. And man alive, did he get attacked. And still to this day, he's got lawsuits against Code. And still to this day, there's an injunction existing to prevent the government or Code Smith or anybody from building those docks up again. Now, the punchline is that it is the biggest lie in the world to take that beach in the name of the Bahamian people and then take it away from them and lie about it.
The courts are being abused in all of this, wouldn't you say? That there's an abuse of the process, that you are able to get these injunctions, that you are able to get judicial review on so many issues.
I can't believe it.
The government itself seems to be stymied into making decisions that it ought to be making.
I cannot believe what is going on in that regard. How abusive the court process has become now, and using that as a tool to prevent the government from doing its job, to prevent me from being able to build my places, and the use of the court. And to have such manipulative power, in the hands of one man like Bacon to pay his way in. And quite frankly, he's just paying his way in to be able to do all that. Now, the other thing that the Clifton issue is that the man claimed that he saved the coral reefs and had pictures of the coral reefs, presumably, except he just happened to show a whole different island, out there, wasn't even Clifton, and so he saved the coral reefs, which were totally damaged. And under his watch, I claim, under his watch, because he had sort of taken custody of it behind the scenes, presumably, all that oil problems started occurring, and they did nothing about it. They were pretty happy about having that not be so well developed and so well visited, etc. And all that oil damage occurred in it. So instead of him saying that I have...
Well, he didn't cause the oil to go there. That was done by the oil companies at Clifton.
That's been going on for a long time.
Yes. Yeah.
But what I claim him for is to go ahead and have all this so-called save the bays, and then not go ahead and save the bays, but instead using them artificially to try to claim the Nygard Key was the cause of all that problem, when it's right there at the oil companies. You're absolutely right.
So Save the Bays was really organized to get after Nygard, you think?
Yes, but again, under a false pretense. He signs up these guys to go ahead, do you guys want to save the bays, meaning they're getting rid of the oil, etc.? Of course you do. Then he takes their names and says, okay, Nygard Key is causing all this environmental damage, and they're using this as alter ego for himself.
Yes.
So he took this award under such false pretenses for one of the most prestigious societies. It was all under false pretenses. And then, he did three things in there that none of us liked, and I totally support that tape as what's contained in there. He claimed that he saved the corals on Clifton. He did not. And that's the environmental award that he got, being an environmentalist. Nothing, there was no environmental saving there at all. In fact, if anything, the damage. He claimed the issue that he presumably saved of the people of Bahamas. He took the people out of Bahamas, destroyed the place from them being able to be used. And then he claimed that he saved it for the slave sites and everything else. And man, he was going to support it. And man, did he run for cover. Behind the scenes, he said, I don't want anything to do with slave sites. Except when it comes to his own plantation, his own grandfather plantation. There, he puts that on a pedestal, the Moorish plantation, and he saves that all right. But when it comes to Bahamas, nothing, they don't. One nickel is going by there, even though there's some promises made. This is to this point that they had promised already to set up some grounds there for the kids, the underprivileged kids, to have their summer camp. This is last summer, Nothing. They pulled the rug from under. They had nothing prepared, and the kids were going to have to cancel the whole camp. Vivian Wiley finally phoned me and said, Peter, can we please save this tomorrow? They've got to cancel 800 kids from spending their summers in there. Can we please use Nygard Key? And they came over there and I let them all use Nygard Key. And it was the biggest blessing that they have ever had. I think you might have seen that story.
Yes, I saw.
But the trouble there was that they had gone through the charade of pretending that they're going to really do it for the Bahamian kids, and exactly the opposite. They had no intention of doing it whatsoever, and they had straight out lied, and all of us, and I consider myself a proud Bahamian, are very upset with that kind of facade. It's all a bunch of lies.
You have done quite a bit for Bahamian children, for Bahamian sporting organizations, for the environment. The question is, why do you do these things?
Yeah. And I do it from natural instincts because I love all those. Everything you mentioned, I just love it. I love those kids, and I love the Bahamian people, and I love the environment, and I love to be a contributing member of the society, and I've gotten all my thrills out of that way. It just comes from naturally. I love to help, and
many people believe that your neighbors can do more. Your neighbors should follow suit and do more.
I have challenged Mr. Bacon to stop this fighting, and we put millions and millions of dollars into this stupidity, and let's join forces and do it for the good of the Bahamian people. Let's take $10 million each and put it for the good of the Bahamian people. I have challenged them over again in this program many times, is to stop wasting money this way. This is such a terrible waste of time and money for everybody. And all his purpose it is to try to steal Nygard Key. Period.
Well, he just doesn't want you to be there.
And doesn't want me to be there because he'd sort of like to have that whole corner all for his own, and ultimately the land becomes worthless in his mind, and he'll be able to buy it for nothing, he was going to cut me off the property, He was going to cut me off the property, He was put big loudspeakers there to drive me off the property. Talk about racism? Yes. People were coming, he had a gate up. People were coming through there, black individuals, and they question him, where are you going, you're not supposed to be here, and it's like asking for permission to get on a bus and then go in the back of the bus kind of thing, making him feel like hell, so his people were there questioning, like a lot of people complaining bitterly about his gatekeeper's conduct, why do I have to be questioned as to whether I can come here or not, so there's a very, very common knowledge about him being very anti-black, in my opinion.
There are many people who want to preclude your guests, average Bahamians, from coming to Nygard Key, and you've held parties and receptions and all the rest of it at Nygard Key for the Bahamian people, and you think that your neighbor is offended by all of this?
Very offended. I had a wonderful relationship with the Life at Key community, and people were welcomed over there. We have an orderly way of getting them through the gate, to make sure, of course, the security. I'm respectful of the security issue, as we all must be. And they all were joining into the parties that I was having, and now all of that started changing was Mr. Bacon bought the next door property, and then gradually got worse and worse and worse, where my hosting of the Bahamian people became really feeling very, very awkward, and for them to come felt very, very awkward. He's photographing everybody's license plates, he's photographing everybody around the place. He's got every conceivable way of making them feel uncomfortable, even including questioning them at every point he can. And quite frankly, he started gradually, systematically tightening screws to try to ruin my reputation, and among the Life at Key people, and ultimately among everybody he can. I've paralleled that to a modern day lynching. If you take about the old guys, then I'd be hanging by a tree somewhere.
That's modern day lynching.
Modern day lynching.
You are fighting this battle, I suppose, on principle, are you?
By necessity, more than principle.
On necessity.
I'm forced to fight it. I don't like this fight. But my daddy once said, "Don't get in the pissing contest with a skunk."
So, what is the necessity?
Necessity to piss.
No, I'm talking about the necessity in fighting this battle. You own a very attractive piece of property at the end of Life at Key, and sometimes I wonder whether or not you regret having gone there, since you have such a battle going on.
It used to be absolutely my favorite place in the world to go to. All the time, I enjoyed going there. I used to invite my neighbors to come over here and play volleyball with me, etc. So it used to be that way when I first came, and all the way until in the last 5 years particularly, but even longer than that. and he's made it very uncomfortable. He's made it very uncomfortable. You know, behind the scenes, stop my work permits from happening, and every evil kind of thing you can think of. And I haven't really bothered to broadcast those out. You know, I just turn the other cheek, I minimize them, you know, try not to maximize those things. And he just continued and continued. And how many times you turn the cheek? You go, hit, and you get hit, and you get hit. Then he brought it out in the open now. As a last desperate attempt, he goes right in the open now, and he, of course, himself even to start, you know, he used to hide behind everybody, you know, before. He used to be in the Life Key community and all kinds of, and we unraveled all that. And so now he's right there in the open, and I have no choice then to at least come up front on his issues, because, you know, one of the problems is that when you say something long enough, you know, ultimately people are going to start believing it.
And so you're fighting for your rights.
I'm fighting for my reputation. I'm fighting for my life. You know, I'm accused of all the wrong things, you know, completely. I've been accused of having a corruption deal with the Prime Minister of Bahamas. I'm a big fan of this Prime Minister. You know, I think he's going to try to leave himself a wonderful legacy in this medical tourism that I was very much played a big part of. He tries to minimize that. He tries to push that down. Everywhere in the world, it is way up there. Every prime minister, everywhere, I'm having state dinners about it. And he tried to belittle that, you know, as if it's the worst thing that could happen to Bahamas, as if the only reason the prime minister is doing his loss is to show Peter Nygard bring the stem cell clinic in Nygard Key. What are you talking about? How silly is that? And you know, if he says it long enough, people will start believing it. You know. Meanwhile, this whole stem cell issue has been held back at least over a year of us getting started on it. The biggest thing that ever happened and could happen in this island and this nation is this whole stem cell legislation. And instead of the Prime Minister getting applauded, you know, by the world and by everybody over here, you know, he has to hide somewhere and be very cautious about what Bacon is going to accuse him of next. I think this is doing a terrible disservice for this country. Terrible disservice for this country. You know, instead of getting everybody rallied, and all the big business people, all the rich people rallied around this cause and creating and investing into this process, which is very worth investing, he's going the other way around and making it seem like insignificant and making it seem like we're going to be abusive about it, you know, completely for his own self-purposes. It has zero truth in it. Not 1 ounce of truth, it never has. Yet he wants to fabricate it, you know, and buy off the Tribune so they can write these nasty articles.
Your stem cell project is still pretty much on stream, is it?
It's very much on stream. I've made major progress with it since we talked last time. Just came back from Germany and from China, and they virtually held a state dinner for me, you know, in Shenzhen, you know, to get me on board to have a collaborative work with them. Germany, we discovered a whole new phenomenal part in and these are very advanced words now, but it's called exosomes.
Yeah,
you know, and you know, and I can go on with these words, you know, that are sort of impressive, but it's very much. And I, by the way, I've taken those stem cells that I earlier showed that are me in a petri dish. I've taken them now and doing testing for safety. Okay. And if they're going to be tested for safety or safe within 3 or 4 months, I'm going to start taking it myself, first one in the world.
We're going to get back and talk about that, but before we do, you made the comment that Bacon seeks to buy off the Tribune. You know, Bacon is a man like to sue people, all right? So
please sue me.
I don't want to get involved in.
You're out of it. It's me. Please sue me. Yeah, I'm welcoming that suit. You know, and I want him to disclose all his financial numbers. You know, to see what damage is being done. That he won't do because he's ready for cover when it comes to disclosing his financial numbers.
I see. Okay, yeah. Let's take a break here on the program. We will come right back.